Alright, I'm gonna make a video for fucking, oh, there's a train coming. This is a beginner video for everything I wish I knew when I first started using my airbrush. Sorry about the train. I don't fucking learn to live with it. You know, I don't know what to tell you. Anyway, so the type of airbrush I got is Iwata Neo for Iwata. It's a dual action airbrush. That means you can push and just air comes out, and the more you pull back, the more paint comes out, right? You're gonna want to get one of those. The compressor I got is that one. Let's see if we can get a good look at it. This one right here. It's just dusty old fucking thing. I just replaced this whole thing. I got this off Amazon. It's pretty much the same one I had, and I replaced it myself. It was on there real tight, but you know, to change the air pressure, you just pull this right here. You pull it up a bit, and then your left is less, right is more. For some reason, when this is on, my gauge goes all the way up to about 60 in the black and about 4 to the red. And then I lower it, and it don't move. And I'm holding. When you do that, when you lower it, hold the shit down. And it should, theoretically, the gauge should go down when you're holding it down. To whatever you've set it to. Mine just fucking doesn't. So I have to, if I ever need to want to actually lower the pressure, I just hold the fucking trigger down on my gun, and I lower the PSI, and I just listen or I put my hand in front of it to see if it's doing less. But for the most part, you're gonna want to keep it around 30 to 60, depending on what you're doing. Again, for me, I'm doing toys and shit. I'm not airbrushing fucking murals on shirts and all that other stuff that you could do with an airbrush. One of the things that people use an airbrush for, and I needed to hear this when I first started, because I was just putting paint on shit, which yeah, but you want to dry the paint as you're painting. Just keep that in mind. You know, especially when you're using a dual action gun. So like if you're painting some shit, you can dry it as you're painting if you don't want like build up to happen, that kind of thing. Anywho, so that's the compressor, the type of gun. So I make my own thinner and airbrush cleaner. And I'll try to post the ratios of stuff. But like right here, I have the thinner. Then this is just for my paints. So what I do, like, so I buy a bunch of these little cups. These are big. I normally get the 1 ounce ones. I'll put a little paint in there, put my thinner in there, mix it around with a brush until I take the brush out. I let it drop one time. Boop, just one little drop. I'm like, cool, we're good. And then I put it in my paintbrush. When I'm in a hurry, I will put a little bit of paint in my airbrush. I'll put a little bit of thinner in here. You're not supposed to do this, but you know, I put a little thinner on top of it. I hold my finger right here and I pull back, and it'll bubble. And that mixes it too. Reach down there with the brush a little bit and do that. Don't ever clean your airbrush under the faucet. I went through years of being like, fuck, I hate airbrushes. All they do is fucking get jammed. No matter how, and I bought like the cleaning kit. It's got little fucking things, and I'll get to that in a little bit. The little cleaning kit they sell at Hobby Lobby, and I would clean it, and I could just never fucking get it right. That's because it was full of calcium from the water from the faucet. Get distilled water. It'll also be in the ratio I talked about earlier for the fucking thinner and the airbrush cleaner. I bought this, but now I just use this bottle. I make my own shit. But get a spray bottle. What I do to clean my airbrush, because it's like, fuck, I don't want to take the whole fucking thing apart every fucking time. Get yourself a bucket. Any bucket will do. I obviously got this one at fucking Home Depot. So what I do is I fucking finish my paint. If there's any paint left in my bowl, I put it back in my shit, even with the thinner. I just put it back in there, even though it's got a little bit of alcohol in it. And then I fucking get a paper towel and I wipe out the residue. I spray the shit. I put this on the thin, not the mist, the thin, and I go right in the fucking hole. You know how when you take the bowl off, there's still a hole there? I mean, just get it in there and hold the thing upside down and let it fucking drop into that fucking bucket. And then I just keep spraying the airbrush cleaner through it onto a rag until I don't see any paint left. That's usually good for a while. And then maybe about once a week, I take my airbrush and I just soak. I take the bowl off and I soak this part in one of these full of alcohol overnight. And that helps. But, so you can get, you're not going to be able to see it, but, so there's the needle coming through. And then there's a tip right here that is touching the needle. There's a very small tip. I have several of those on backup for when these start getting, and several needles. I just have a kit, but you shouldn't have to change them that often, especially now that I learned to not fucking clean it in the sink with the faucet water. But you can get extra needles, depending on what you want to do. If you want like a wider fucking spray or, you know, shit like that, you can get a thicker tip with a thicker needle, and there's more paint will come through and shit like that. And I have all kinds to fit. You know, I have 1 or 3 or 4 of each one, so that, you know, this the worst thing is when you sit down to paint and you're like, fuck, I gotta go to Michael's or Hobby Lobby or some bullshit. Every now and then you're gonna want to. So this fucking part right here, you can take that off. All that is for is to protect the needle. So every now and then, especially if you're like not thinning your paints enough, you can see the needle sticking through here. You're going to want to reach up with your nail and kind of clean that a little bit. Sometimes I got to take this off and clean the needle with the way I just had it. Just kind of scrape it with my nail a little bit. But get you like a cleaning kit. It's always good to just have that shit around. But if you're doing everything I just told you, you're fucking good to go for a while, you know. Just get some paper towels, spray it into a bucket. Every now and then you have to, and that bucket will like evaporate, and then you'll just have paint down, like dry paint down there. I use it as a trash can mostly for my 3D printing shit. Keep some of this around. The air duster, especially if you're doing like layers. You know, you paint something and you seal it in with like a gloss or a matte finish. And then, you know, I have dogs in the house. And, you know, spray your shit off before you paint with canned air. That helps. That's about everything I can think of with airbrush. Other than just like mess around with it. Learning your shit. But your paint should be pretty thin. I use acrylic paints. You know, I have the expensive paints, the Vallejo and shit like that. But I also got that fucking 50-cent Hobby Lobby shit. And I put that on my action figures. I seal it properly, and then there's no paint rub. So you can put this stuff through your airbrush just fine. Obviously, just thin it. Just make sure you thin it. Now, I keep a thing of thinner. But I also keep a thing of, just like this, of distilled water. For when I actually want to thin my paint in here. Like, it's not good to put alcohol in this. But, you know, It's paint thinner. It does have alcohol in it. I'm pretty sure. Glycerin and like flow reducer. I think. It may not. Might just be talking out my ass. But I wrote down like the ratios and shit. But anyway, that's all I can think of to do with the airbrush for a beginner. After that, it's just trial and error.